so there's no pressure after those two amazing speeches, but I do have my coffee. During Jan term, one of the first things we had to do in our class was we had to come up with a 6-word phrase that sort of defined our teaching experience, or what we hoped, how it would define our upcoming semester. And mine was, patience causes headaches, respect the coffee. Okay? I'm a very patient person, but I definitely wouldn't be able to do it without the coffee. It definitely got me through some tough times. I went through some phases where I thought I could give it up, but I'm back on it. No regrets. Alright. So, there are many phrases or questions I have heard constantly throughout my journey to becoming a teacher. Of all of them, 2 are definitely my favorite. I am positive that one of them is one we all became too familiar with this past year. This ego-rising and ego-checking statement comes up in a conversation that sounds something like this. Alright students, I need you to get into groups of 3. You have 5 seconds. Ready, set, go. Man, Mr. Castro, you be doing too much. I take a step back, and for a second or two, I am sure I contemplate whether or not my request is indeed doing too much. What do you mean I be doing too much? I curiously ask, with a slight slant and bow to my head to show concern. This, you always got us doing too much. This my student is referring to concerns me because 1, I just asked them to get into groups of 3. And 2, I have not explained what we will be doing. I do not know what this is, and in an effort to understand this, I begin with a bombardment of questions, which I like to think is my secret weapon, because why lecture a student when he can lecture himself? What is this you are referring to? What would you rather have me do? What do you think? Why do you think I have you working in groups? How am I doing too much? If I do not teach you to work with others, including those you may not like, then how are you going to be prepared to work with others in the real world? Oh, Mr. Castro, get out of my face. You be doing too much, I have a headache. I once had a teacher in high school who, by the way, was my favorite teacher, and she of course taught English, and I'm also not surprised that she is an alum from St. Mary's, which I did not know up until recently. This teacher gave me a headache every day. We had these discussions in class, and I felt like I was always on the brink of solving the meaning of life, at least for myself. Only to find by the conclusion of class that there was no right or wrong answer because it would be different for everyone. Ms. Chacon, this class always gives me a headache. You always pose all these thought-provoking questions, and even after our discussion, I leave with even more questions. If you do not get a headache in my class, then I am not doing my job, and you are not thinking, she responded. She was doing too much. Then, as she would walk me late to my next class, our steps almost in sync, the silence that followed was killer. Our discussion would seemingly cease to exist to a random passerby. However, it was very much alive, and the metaphysical discourse between what was not said, what was known, and the unknown would eat me alive, because like every other high schooler, I was seeking to find myself, and these were the answers I needed. It was an intellectual vitality that came natural to me, and comes natural to all of our students, but they need to be engaged, and materials need to be made relevant. So going back to my "you be doing too much" student, as I checked for understanding, like I said I would in my St. Mary's lesson plan format, I noticed that my student who said I was doing too much is engaged in doing work. I am not surprised, I am proud. I believed in this student and they achieved. I can put a name to this student, but this student is a symbolic representation of many of our students who need us to believe in them and challenge them to believe in themselves. This confrontation with the "you be doing too much" student is one of the lighter confrontations I'm sure we have all had with our students. Student teaching enrichment from our first teaching placement ever was definitely a difficult time for me, and I definitely cried and began to grow frustrated with myself because I felt like I was failing the students. I would have been with my roommate, friends, family, and I remember on one occasion bursting into Professor Keith's office almost in tears because I did not know what to do anymore. Yes, I would get cursed at. Sometimes students would come intoxicated to class, and students would come in with baggage that is too much for anyone to carry on their own. But they were my students, and at the end of the day, I still cared for them and would seek to understand them. It may have been my AmeriCorps experience as a one-on-one case manager that really allowed me to see students as individuals and try to understand where they come from. But I think at such a tough school, I was too nice, and I learned this lesson really fast. And I hadn't noticed that my tone of voice was so loud when I was teaching at my first placement because I was constantly talking over students, and I came into a tough environment that lacked a lot of organization and structure. So then when I went to my new placement, from day one, the first time I introduced myself, I find myself shouting at my students. And they're just like terrified, like, who is this guy? He's already yelling at us, he just got here. But luckily I was able to tone it down and like get back to my normal voice. And I was blessed with a good group of students this semester. So, I lost my place. All right, so students crave structure, although many will deny it, and I was coming into a school that struggled with structure and organization, but also a community that lacked this same structure, organization, safety, nutrition, and economic and social development. We all stepped in as strangers into an environment that was not ours, and we worked to adapt to the structure and routine set up by our master teachers, if there was any to begin with. This can be and was a difficult task, but we survived thanks to all the people here today, and many more who could not make it. Now, there is one thing I cannot leave out of my speech, but the almost purposeful omission of it stems from the fact that I did not want to give it the power it had over all of us in the fall. However, if you think about it, the omission of anything gives it power in the critical discourse of that which is not spoken. So here it is. Pact sucks. Pact be doing too much. But we are here because we killed it. The St. Mary's motto could have easily changed for all of us last fall. Enter to learn or get served by Pact. So I guess you can say we all learned. Although some of us, myself included, learned the hard way and lost days of sleep prior to the deadline. And then I immediately flew to New York for a much-needed escape from work and anything Pact related. So at the beginning of my rambling speech, I mentioned that there were two statements that were my favorite in my journey to becoming a teacher. The second one, though, comes more as an insult. But at the same time, it also raises my conviction and allows my backbone to almost protrude from my shirt. I hear it from adults, students, friends, acquaintances, and even fellow teachers. It goes something like this. You went to Columbia and you want to teach? Why would you want to teach? This statement is troublesome in so many ways for me. One, it assumes that I am breaking an imposed stereotype of the Ivy League. Two, it carries a negative connotation that degrades the teaching profession. And three, it permeates a verbally ironic suggestion that educated people belong elsewhere. I chose to teach because I realized the opportunities my education has provided me with, and I want to play a role in inspiring, motivating, and guiding students to take advantages of the opportunities available to them, whether that entails graduating high school or pursuing a higher education degree. I do not want to get cheesy, and my students specifically warned me not to. Keep it real, Mr. Castro, don't get all cheesy, they said. But at the end of the day, I teach because I care. I teach because I love that everybody deserves. I teach because I believe that everybody deserves somebody in their life who believes in them. I teach because I have a passion that I want to share with others. I teach because I do not understand. I teach because I need my students just as much as they need me. They keep me grounded, they remind me where I came from and where I'm going, and they keep me filled with purpose. I can be having the worst day in my personal life or be going through the most difficult of times, but as soon as I step foot into my classroom, all is set aside, and I become engulfed in this strong sense of purpose where I am reminded that I have the responsibility of making the day as enlightening and as positive as possible for all the students in my class. I teach because it makes me a better person. Professor Reina Leon provided me with a message that I will never forget, and while we may all know it, it is important to hear it over and over again. Teaching is not a job or a career, it is a vocation. Whether you are religious or not, teaching is a vocation because we are being called upon by our youth. It is a calling by society, and our youth need our service. That is a lot to take on, but I think we're willing to be doing too much. Thank you to all the SMC professors, staff, fellow cohorts, friends, and family for all the support. I love you all, and I look forward to continuing this journey, knowing I have all of your continued support. I want to wish all my cohorts and those in the special education program the best of luck, and I am more than confident that we will all go out there and do some great work with our youth. And I also want to give a shout out to my students at Kennedy and Mount Diablo High School for being so amazing and for keeping it real. Peace and love.